Okay. You are live. Oh boy.
We are live.
We are. Okay, good. I need to figure out how I guess comments will happen when people find it.
Yes. So when
And we
people
are.
start, yeah, when people start commenting in the chat, then yeah, they'll start popping up in that box.
Okay. I'm just going to let people know on Instagram.
Sounds good.
So, mm, find a very mundane picture to work with here.
Olivine said she'll be in a minute. She's
No
doing
problem.
something.
No problem. So, yeah, we were, well, we're waiting for people to find again, we started early. So, and I always have a problem getting started anyway. Getting the ball rolling is a difficult thing for me to get to do. So, yeah, like we were talking, also like I don't know. Yeah, I've been watching you guys on Wine and Witchcraft. That's Elvine's fault twice. 9 months ago, I saw her post going live on Wine and Witchcraft, and I didn't know what that was. And
Uh-huh.
it was what was episode was it? It was the uh, imposter syndrome
Yes.
video. And then 9 months later, I had forgotten about Wine and Witchcraft. Sorry, and I saw.
Highly offended. No.
No, I'm an asshole. I'm sorry. And I saw. Hi, Brittany. I saw Alvine's posting again to Instagram,
Yeah.
and that was 24 hours after, or like almost a day after the High episode.
Yeah.
And I decided, okay, well, I'm at work, but I'm going to use these, which are hearing protection, but they have Bluetooth in them.
Hmm.
So I looked a little bit like a madman because I was cutting up trees with a chainsaw and cackling like a madman to the all three. So I looked a little bit like a crazy person, I guess, because nobody knew that those had Bluetooth.
Yeah.
It was a good time, and I was pretty much hooked ever since then. So,
Well, we get crazy over there, so.
well, it's a great show. But anyway, uh, yeah, Brittany, that was a good one though.
That was a good one.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I found your channel and found One in Witchcraft and yours channel. And you seem like a kind of person that would be excellent to have on for this particular subject because this is something I've been wanting to talk about with a number of different people, and hopefully, maybe when I've talked to like 6 or 7 people, bring you all back on and have like a panel discussing it if
Yeah.
it goes that far. But if everybody's available.
Yeah. Scheduling.
Uh, and hello, all of y'all, and thank you, Dylan. um, Everybody is coming to the chat. Thank y'all very much for coming in. I appreciate you hanging out with us. We are talking about men and masculinity and witchcraft and occult spaces, and y'all can see that I'm joined with Justin, the Witch of Enchantment, and we're just here to talk about a subject I don't really hear talked about very much. Um, you don't hear a whole lot about men and masculinity on like social media and YouTube. Back in
Yeah.
the 90s, there was a lot of male authors and not a lot of female authors on books,
Hmm.
and uh, and now that's kind of reversed itself. It's reversed course, and there's a lot of female YouTube creators and very few men.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've noticed that. Maybe I haven't been around as long as some folks though, so maybe I've missed something.
I mean, I originally started YouTube in 2009 or 2010 was when I originally came to YouTube, and then I left for various reasons. But even back then, I think outside of me on YouTube, maybe one or two other men at the time, and they were both gay. So there wasn't a lot of men then. I don't really think that there's a lot of men now, especially not in the YouTube pagan space, at least not that I'm aware of. It's definitely dominated by women, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think that's like necessarily wrong. It's always struck me as kind of strange.
Well, I think I mean, I think it's kind of typical. Honestly, it doesn't really. We need more penis, less vagina. Well, I could agree on that. I could definitely agree on that. I would say, I think it makes sense because more people who feel maybe oppressed by society or like on the outskirts typically turn to witchcraft because, it's not, well, now it's more socially acceptable, but I think that's why you see a lot of women and LGBTQI people in the space over men in general. And then if you take, men, cis men in this sphere, you have even less than, I mean, it's like what, less than 1% of straight men in the sphere. So I think it's not surprising to me, that's for sure.
And that applies even to me. Like I like to call it straight with a twist. I'm actually heteromantic asexual. So straight, yeah, but I guess there's a spectrum on that too, right?
I think sexuality as a whole is a spectrum. I think,
but that's
modern day
that gets people alienated by the church, and that's one of the reasons why they leave. And I don't blame them.
Right.
I haven't really had that problem because mine is sort of invisible. You can't really see it. I don't present as anything other than straight cis. And I don't know how people put up with it as long as they do. But I don't blame them for leaving the church and coming to witchcraft. But that does cause an influx of LGBTQ persons in the craft, and atheists, which is fine. That's another way you can go.
Well, definitely, because I mean, if you look at Christianity, not even Christianity as a whole, Catholicism, Judaism, all really, most world religions feed into men being in power, just taking color out of it. Like men are in power. So I think for our society, if you have the power, why leave that space? And not that it's even conscious. You know what I mean? It's not like a conscious thing always, but if this is what you've grown up in and you're a leader in the church and you have this position, there really isn't any sort of oppression or servitude that you have to run from. Does that make sense?
You kind of make a very good point. There's no motivation to leave.
Right.
In fact, you're incentivized to stay because that's where you tend to have the advantage.
Correct. I mean, if me leaving the church had to do with my sexuality, not wanting to be in that environment, not wanting to be exposed to that. But if I was straight, I mean, really thinking about it, I probably would still be in the church because why wouldn't I be?
Yeah, that's actually a fair point. I mean, yeah, when you put it that way, that does make more sense because I grew up. My dad, well, my mom married my dad. My dad's now he's retired, but he's an ordained Episcopalian priest, and I never really got to see a whole lot of things because my dad was one of the very few he took pride in the number of same-sex marriages that he performed, and he supported them, and he would actively kick out bigots. Like, get out. They're not
that's an amazing thing.
Yeah. And I'm proud of him for that. And, but, I was about 5 years old when my parents got divorced. My mom married my stepdad, who is a Episcopalian priest. And, well, hey, you like what you like.
Right.
Yeah. but she was always a school teacher. So she, didn't really have much to do with the church. She went because my dad did, and then my stepdad did. So she's always married to a priest.
Right.
And both of them are very pro LGBTQ.
Well, that's what's definitely not my experience. Definitely not my experience, but it's good that you had that experience and people involved with them have those experiences. I don't think that that's a very common thing, unfortunately.
No, outside the Episcopalian Church, Episcopalian denomination is it's Christian. It's like Diet Coke of Christianity. It's
right.
Really not. They're not fanatical. Right.
Yeah.
They're allowed to believe in the saints, but they don't really concern themselves with the saints. They're not Catholic.
Right.
Yeah. The result of that is there is space to be a lot more accepting.
Well, that's good.
And I know it's a really rare thing. Well, I don't know if it's rare or if it's just the negative aspect is a lot noisier. I'm not sure which one is the case.
I mean, that could probably be regional. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, a lot of people come, at least it appears that a lot of people, particularly in the LGBTQI community, come to witchcraft from some sect of Christianity because of the rhetoric. So, I mean, I would go to say it's more common than not.
I would say you're probably right because just because of the sheer volume of people that are chased off because of that reason. In fact, almost everybody I've ever seen on YouTube who wasn't raised atheist, who left the church, left because of those reasons.
Right.
So, and who the hell could blame them?
Nobody.
Why would they around that environment? Oh my. Well, fear, but
yeah.
And that's about the only reason why.
Well, yeah, and when you're indoctrinated to believe a certain way, and particularly when you're a child and you grow up in those types of environments, that's the only world that you know. Yeah. So you just innately believe something's wrong with you.
Yeah. Hi, Taya.
Oh, Taya's here.
She is. And more and more people are leaving organized religions because they realize it's bullshit. Yeah, I mean... that brand of it, yes, it is, and it's not hard to see why. Also, Dylan, hi, I'm not ignoring you. I'm sorry. More hot dogs at the party. But yeah, and then masculinity and witchcraft, which is that would mean the Witch of Dark Light.
Aradia, hello, sweetheart.
Hey, how are you? Food to organize. Yeah, well, I'm for reasons that make perfectly good sense. I mean, I'm not anti-Christian, but my experience with the church was nowhere near as harmful as a lot of people in our spirituality.
Well, I mean, so I don't know. I think if there was an organized religion that didn't thrive on the degradation of others, it wouldn't be an issue.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because in my mind, if you're looking even at covenry, or if you are in a practice that, everybody feels the same exact way, practices the same way, everyone has the same goal, and you have a regiment to that, it almost becomes religious. And then that organized religion isn't hurting anybody. I think that's really where it comes from. And the problem is all these organized religions are based on patriarchal views. So unless you can align yourselves with them, you're going to be hurt in the process.
I mean, Dylan, what you're saying there, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know how to highlight anything, but
if you click on it, if you take your mouse and click on it, it should show you like a plus or something.
Oh, okay.
Sure. If you click on that, it should pop up in the live. There you go.
Okay.
And then if you want it to go away, you just click on it again.
Okay. I joke with myself that witchcraft made me gay because almost a year after I found the craft, I came to the conclusion that I was gay. Yeah, maybe being away from. Well, actually, I don't know what your background is, Dylan, but it's possible that it gave you the freedom to come to that conclusion. I don't know that. I don't know you, but it would make
Well, I
sense.
definitely think embracing witchcraft definitely does break down barriers, and I think once, especially if you come from a religious background, practicing witchcraft is the devil's work and it's evil and you'll burn in hell forever. So, sucking a dick doesn't seem so bad. You can kind of, accept
Right.
things that maybe you had a hard time dealing with before, because once you go all the way to the edge, all the stuff in between is kind of irrelevant. At least that was my experience.
And Witch of Darklight said hang on. To be honest, I love the old mysticism and esoteric in Christianity. Actually, yes, so do I.
Yeah.
One thing that I actually really do admire about Christianity is the architecture. I love that. It's incredibly artistic,
Agreed.
and it has inspired quite a lot of like really really interesting work and and a lot of relevant to my craft. A lot of ironwork was
Yeah.
a lot of artistic ironwork was done for Roman Catholic cathedrals, and it's gorgeous. And a lot of
Yeah.
the stained glass work is gorgeous. Like so, Christianity it has contributed positive things to society. It's contributed a lot of art. So I don't, it's not like I'm here to shit on Christianity. No, there's good aspects to it.
Well, and it's kind of like the same process when, an actor does something you don't like, but you still like their movies. You
Yeah,
can appreciate parts of it while not necessarily condoning all of it. I mean, my practice is highly influenced by Catholicism. And I mean, I didn't even grow up Catholic, but there's a lot of power and there's a lot of artistic beauty there. And there's also a lot of, like Aradia was saying, a lot of mysticism that we don't really
yes.
acknowledge anymore.
And we
Um,
should because
and we
it's good
should.
there.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I don't have the problem. Self love. Sorry. I think EGI should be proud of themselves and start a revolution of self love. Love themselves and don't live a lie. Love always wins. Divided we fall. Together we create heaven on earth. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I like the sentiment that you're going with there.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what your background is, Willow. So, but I like the sentiment there. Um, yeah, but yeah, Catholicism in particular has inspired a lot of art, and I am a person who likes art. So,
Yeah.
and you know, and Brittany, I grew up free to pick the religion or spiritual path I wanted. I wish everyone could have such freedom. Yeah, so do I. If only we were all so lucky, because the one the only real chip on my shoulder I had with Christianity is I was baptized and before I was able to talk, so I couldn't exactly object or consent.
Right.
So that's the only real grump I have about it. But my experiences aren't everybody's experiences, and the way I've come to I cope with that by going, well, if I'm so young that I can't consent, I don't think it counts.
I would agree with that. Yeah. Peter J. Terry says, does the public think all male witches are gay?
Uh, I'm always I have been asked. I haven't been asked. It's been assumed that I am by people who close to me that find out. Nobody in my family, but people have kind of made the assumption, or they behave in a way where it suggests that they kind of assume that I am. Um, I'm I kind of I don't find that offensive personally, because some of the best people I know are one kind of LGBTQ or another. So associating
Yeah.
me with them, not exactly an insult.
Yeah.
I just kind of laugh and go, okay, I guess whatever. I don't even answer the question.
Yeah. I mean, I don't I think people have the assumption because they are prevalent in the community. I mean, whether that's a fact that people like or don't like is kind of irrelevant. The fact is, when you look at the public sphere, most people are women. And then if you're going to look at the men that have a, you know, a public persona or whatever in a witchy space, 9 times out of 10, they are a member of the LGBT community. That, I mean, that's just a fact.
And it's not like I'm not. I'm
Right.
just I'm not a very visible part. Hey, Alvine, how are you? Yeah, it's not like I'm not LGBTQ. I'm the invisible letter in that acronym.
Right. Well, and I also think, you know, more men who are straight should have a voice. I mean, I think everybody that's a part of the community who wants to be like have a public presence should, whether you're gay, straight, you know, intersex, asexual, whatever, you know, your letter is in the alphabet, everyone has a voice because everyone should have a voice and an opportunity to have that voice because we all have different lived experiences. So I personally don't see it a lot. And like
Yeah,
I said, I mean, I've been in the YouTube game on and off for 14 years, and it isn't any better than it was before as far as that's concerned.
I mean, it's only been like very recently where I've kind of started looking at myself as something other than straight because I never really noticed a difference. Like I'm kind of exempt from all the bullshit that the rest of the community has to deal with. Being a straight ace, I kind of fly right under the radar. So
Did your magical practice help you come to that realization?
that's a funny story. And that's a very funny story. Well, not funny, haha. Before I came to paganism, I was an asshole.
Oh,
I was very far right, like alt right rabbit hole, because of a breakup with somebody who had decided that they couldn't be with me anymore because they were, not as bi as they thought. She was actually, full like a lesbian, and that I was at the time 29,
mm-hmm.
29 or 30, and she decided to uh, dump this on me on February 14th. So that wasn't fun. I was hoping to have a nice date for Valentine's Day, and I ended up losing a girlfriend.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the
Well, in
time,
the end,
yeah, at the time it was a much bigger deal because
right.
there's a lot more to that story, but I kind of decided that I just didn't trust that anymore, right? And I'm sure you've heard the rhetoric about bisexuality not really being a thing and all that, and that was my shitty opinion. And a series of events happened in my life that forced me to look at myself in the mirror, which I now understand to be Bridget saying, "All right, motherfucker, we're changing that shit,"
Yeah.
because she wasn't going to have that shit, and she knew what was going to happen, and she uh, wasn't going to work with me while I had that attitude. And at the time, I didn't know who Bridget was. I didn't even know that pagan was a thing. I just knew that I was pissed off about something and had a shitty attitude about it.
Right.
And a series of events happened in my life that forced me to look in the mirror and go, "Oh, I'm asexual. That means I'm not like. That means I've been treating people shitty, and I'm a part of that community, or am I? I don't know. My particular where I sit is kind of I straddle the line between straight and maybe not so straight.
Yeah.
Um, because romantically, yeah, I'm attracted to women. Sexually, nothing. I don't have a sexual orientation. It just
Yeah.
doesn't exist, which is very bizarre. Um, it's a weird position to be in, realizing that you've been a shitty person towards your own community, but you're not sure if that's your community.
Yeah.
Brittany had a perfect analogy in your Pride Month episode on my witchcraft, where she describes herself as standing on the steps, knocking on the door, wanting to come in. That's kind of me at both the gay bar and the straight bar. I'm not quite sure, like I don't really have one, and
Well, it's okay to not know yet, though.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Like, there's not like
I
a
know,
clock,
yeah, like I know how I identify,
right?
but I don't know. Like depending on who you ask, I'm either a part of the community or I'm not.
Well,
It's
I mean, if you, how you identify determines whether you're in the community or not the community. And that may not
yeah,
be like the thing to say, but it's the truth. Because only you know how you feel. You know what I mean? Like, it's your experience. So it's not for anybody else to try to dictate that. And I can relate somewhat to what you're saying, not probably in the same way, just because most people just 99% of the time presume I'm just gay. I'm just gay. Um, which, I mean, I'm not going to lie, on a spectrum of sexuality, I'm like 98% more attracted to men in every sense than women, but there is still a part of me that is, sexually attracted to women, even though it's a very small percentage. That's why I identify as bi, and people don't like that. I mean, there's this whole bi craze too, where people,
violation. Yeah, it is.
have thought that it's not a
And
real
that's
thing.
bullshit too, and that's
Yeah.
bullshit too, and like, um, yeah. I mean, and if I had to choose, I'd rather, um, I'd rather stand on the side with the queer community because I have been treated better and accepted more by that community than I have anywhere else in my life.
Yeah.
So if I have to choose, guess who I'm choosing? You know?
Right. Well, and the thing is, I think too, for women, and not in a positive way, but for women, I think the experience is different with sexuality, not like across the board general statement, but you know, society sexualizes women in a way that makes it okay for women to explore, and men aren't really given that same space to
Right.
explore or to try to define their sexuality. Because if you have an experience with a man just to see what it's like or just to explore, you're gay. Like there's
Yeah.
no fun. I got drunk and me and my boy jerked each other off, or whatever it is. Like there's no exploration for men. And if
Right.
girls make out or do something, oh, they were just drunk, or we're just friends.
Right.
So there's definitely a differentiation there, but I don't think it's a positive one. I think it's
No, it's not.
because it's society
It's kind of
objectifies women.
it's kind of a disgusting double standard, isn't it?
It is, because, well, the thing is, societally, spiritually, we view men in a way of, great protectors. Not that anybody's asking to be protected, but as protectors, strong, the physical strength, everything is bigger, stronger than women. So anything that steps outside of that gender role is considered to be less than.
Yeah.
And for women, they're just sexualized, they're objectified. So if they mess with a girl, it's a fantasy. You know what I mean? If it's neither side is a legitimate way to look at it, but
Right.
that's how our culture looks at it, and it
Yeah.
doesn't really benefit anybody.
And the reality is, as a truck driver, I've met some women that would whip my ass and yours, and we're supposed to be the big strong protector. Come on now, like there are some tough women, and there are some, really effeminate men, and both are okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being either way.
Correct. Hey, a man liking men is seen as feminine, and anything feminine is bad. Correct. And in that thought process, and in men and women thinking that, it's a backwards way of, degrading women. It's a way of saying there's innately something less valuable in a woman than there is in a man. But yeah, sexuality for men is definitely a fucked up thing.
Yeah, it is, and I don't really, I don't really, I don't like it. But I mean, I think that's why it's more important. It's even more important now to have these conversations so that people can see actually there's more to men than just the big, strong hunter gatherer protector. Because you know, yeah, I might fit that stereotype back in my 20s when I was in the Coast Guard, but now I no. I put on a few
Well, I mean, I get like what Dylan's saying. Okay, we're not fighting off like saber-toothed tigers or some shit. Like,
right.
hello, it's 2023. You're not out hunting for food while, the woman is bearing children and taking care of the homestead. That's not reality. So the expectation of that societally is just bullshit, honestly.
Yeah, it's nonsense. How many women are police officers now? Quite a few more than there was.
Right.
And I'm glad they are because some of them are actually very well suited to it.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and there's a lot of men like, hello, Uvalde, Texas, really shouldn't be police officers.
Right.
Like,
Well, there's definitely an expectation and of men and how they should behave. And that the conversation of toxic masculinity enters the space, and it's something that's not the reality is that it's not really fully perpetuated by men. And it is, but it's also perpetuated by women because of how our culture has indoctrinated us and how to think about men. And kind of, not really kind of, but projecting that onto men and building an expectation of how men are supposed to behave, what they're supposed to do.
yeah,
And then it becomes, a shit show.
yeah, but like, and Taya's right here though. Like, misogyny affects men too. Yeah, it absolutely does. It's maybe not aimed at men, but we get hit with the, I guess, collateral damage or what have you.
I think it is. I think men are because we are taught. We're taught by our mothers and fathers how to be men. We're
Yeah,
taught at a young age, and it is definitely changing. But I can definitely attest to when I was little. There are certain toys you're not supposed to play with, certain things you're not supposed to do,
yeah,
expectations that you're not just your father but your mother instill in you, and then those are enforced at school, at church, and other social interactions.
yeah,
And it's just another way to indoctrinate men on how to behave. And then you get this masculine crisis that we have on our hands because in my view, what it is men are taught to be a certain way. And as societally and culturally we change, that becomes the paradigm because this is how I was taught to behave. This is how everyone told me I was supposed to behave. And I'm behaving this way. And now as a 40-year-old, 50-year-old man, I'm being told that that's not okay, that what I'm doing is bad or innately wrong. And then it becomes this fight or flight type of pushback. Not saying that it's okay. Toxic masculinity is real in the sense of our expectation of men and not giving men an opportunity to explore and express themselves in a way that feels right for them.
yeah. And the opposite side of that though is there's nothing at all wrong with what Brittany's saying here. I'm a girly girl, so maybe I'm different. No, Brittany, you just know
No.
what you want.
Well,
There's
the
absolutely
thing,
nothing wrong with being. If you fit the stereotype, okay, fine,
right.
but that's you. Like,
If
right?
that's what you choose to
You're not,
do.
and Brittany, you're not pushing that on anybody else.
Correct.
That's just who you are. That's not a bad way to be, and that's not toxic because you're not
Correct.
pushing it on anybody.
That's to me when it becomes toxic. If me trying to dictate how men should behave, or even women, like Alvine is saying, how, everyone should be able to embrace however they want to, and it's culturally be okay. If a man, wants to work on cars and hunt and be the epitome of masculinity, there's nothing wrong with a man being a man, or, fitting those societal norms. There isn't anything wrong with that. It only becomes wrong when that man then thinks that it's his place to enforce other men to behave the same way. That's when it becomes an issue, or when women do the same thing.
Yeah, and that goes hand in hand with the Christian conversion narrative, right? The whole conversion culture in Christianity that encourages people to push their bullshit on other people, and they do it with everything, not just the religion, but everything that they think should be. They shove it down everybody else's throat, and then they whine about it when we have a pride parade. Oh, we're shoving it down your throat. No. You've enforced it on every aspect of our life, especially here in the United States, even right down to what marriage should be legally. Give me a fucking break.
Well, it's because men are told to like structure and purpose, and she always goal oriented, and women typically, not just saying, societally, women are taught to be more familiar and instinctual and more driven by the heart. And so when you have the LGBT community, it's so vast and people are so expressive and, fuck the boundaries. And that is a threat to what people are taught. And I think also it shines a light on some people as to things they have within themselves that they don't really want to explore.
Yeah. Yeah. And that comes down to fear. And and I'll give you an example of how I do and don't fit the norm. Like my hobby, that's typically considered to be a very manly thing to do as a hobby, right? But I currently work at a campground. Okay, fine. But this coming Friday, I'm going out to an interview with a school, where the Shore Beauty School, to potentially talk to them about their classes in cosmetology and barbering.
Oh, that'll be so cool.
Yeah, to get the hell out of this manual labor bullshit grind that I've been doing my entire damn life. I was in the Coast Guard. I was a welder, and I left the Coast Guard, and I started driving an 18-wheeler, and then I came back home, and now I'm the maintenance man and trash truck driver at a campground, and lo and behold, I'm still working with extremely hot metal that could very easily set you on fire, and I have gone through more shoelaces than I care to count, because every time I hit the damn piece of steel, it falls on my boot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on the other side of that, I'm considering going to cosmetology school, which anybody off the street is going to look at that and go, oh, he must be gay because he's going to cosmetology school, because they don't know the other half of what I do.
Well, and to Taya's point, it's the way we think of masculinity. I mean, it looks different to all sorts of lifestyles. Men are nurturing, men are caring, men are kind. They are all of those things. They are all of those things, and they should be all of those things. But we also can't ignore culturally, the differences there. Right. There's expectations of men and women. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I'm just saying that's a fact. It just is.
And Taya is reminding me here that there are still women that do know this, right? And there are some spaces on the internet where you would think that no woman remembers that men can actually be, caring and kind, and it's nice to see that. I know Taya knows that, but it's nice to see it said once in a while.
Well, and even in me as a parent, I mean, my wife will tell me she's not the same type of nurturer that I am, because she's not, isn't how she's raised. That's not her personality. I'm more of the nurturer for our daughter. But that's just my nature. That doesn't make her less of a woman or a mother. And the fact that I'm more nurturing doesn't make me more of a father, or you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know.
Thank you, Brittany. You don't want me to do that now. Wait until after I get the training. That could end up as a disaster now. Um, let's see around.
Assuming he was gay, yeah.
The barber shop can be kind of a man cave, can it?
You know what? I'm going to say something just because you reminded me of something. I've never been to a barbershop, number one.
Okay.
Let me say that because very, very uncomfortable. I get very uncomfortable around straight men, straight presenting men. I get very nervous because of my own personal experiences with men. So yeah, no, I would never go to a barbershop ever.
That's fair, and that's perfectly fair. And the reason I want to study cosmetology because I don't want to deal with just men.
Yeah.
But that's not because I'm sexually attracted to women. It's because I don't want to miss out on 50% of my potential customers in an area.
Exactly.
It's strictly a business decision.
You got to think of the money.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, why would I want to exclude and alienate half of my potential customers? It doesn't make any sense. But I also don't like a heavily heterosexual masculine environment, not because it makes me uncomfortable, but because I find it disgusting how they talk about women. When there aren't any women around, or they think there aren't any women around, the way they'll talk about them is really fucking gross in a lot of places, especially at the bar.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I can really blame people for talking about. Like, if you're hanging out with men and just men, like if you're going to, say, the barber shop or the pool club or like a golf course, wherever it is you hang out that's around other straight men, you are removing yourself from an environment where women might be so that you can just be men. And I think that's important. It has its place.
I agree.
I don't like being in those environments because I get mad with the way straight men talk about women sometimes. Not all of them. In fact, not even most.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't think that there's anything wrong with men congregating or having their own space, just like I think women should have. Everybody wants to be able to have some sense of community with people who are like-minded or shared lived experiences, because you want to be able to relate to people. So I think that that's a completely normal thing. I just, for me, I've just had things happen to me, and it makes me so nervous. And I was telling Brittany actually before this live that I've never even had friends who are men that aren't gay. I just never have, because of the things that I've experienced. I have a fear, a nervousness, very cautious when it comes to men, just because I feel like there's always an ulterior motive, either, violent or not. But yeah.
Yeah. I can understand why. Especially if you've been treated kind of crappy because of circumstances. That's fucked up. Yeah. And there's, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I lost my train of thought.
So how did you feel coming into this space? Were you nervous coming into this kind of YouTube ether?
I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and I didn't care because I tend to just jump in and deal with it when I get there. I started YouTube specifically to meet other like-minded people and make friends. And if I get people that want to watch my channel and watch my videos and enjoy that while I'm at it, good. I like that. That'd be awesome. But I wanted to meet people that were, in my community, because I live in kind of a bubble town where nobody's
Mm-hmm.
heard of anything other than Christianity.
Ah, gotcha.
So, like Southern New Jersey is an interesting place, right? We're here, right? Alternative religions are here. You'd never know it because we're very good at hiding.
Yeah. Oh God.
So,
I
so
also think too, like thinking about men in witchcraft. I think too a lot of men. I think someone wrote about witch and workings or something. I know he's on YouTube. I think too, and I could be wrong in saying this, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I think more men that are in the craft take more of a vow of secrecy. I think a lot more men are connected to maybe ceremonial magic, more of like that structure that men are used to. So I think that's why you don't necessarily see them making content and being YouTube creators or
yeah,
Instagram creators, things like that. I don't know. That's my assumption. I don't know that to be a fact, but that's my impression.
I kind of get the same impression. Like we don't really like it's not manly to do that kind of a thing, right?
Well, yeah, and the connection is I don't know. I think it's again where men are taught to be goal oriented and structured and provide and hit certain marks. And I think that's what men connect to in those kind of
Yeah,
sects.
yeah. But I think it's important for men to have that outlet so that they don't do it in places where it could cause like unintended harm. Like if you're all hanging out at the all boys club and you're running your mouth and you're being kind of pigs in an environment where it's only men and like it's what is said there stays there. I think
Hmm.
that does have its place for therapeutic reasons,
Yeah.
where you can just be a guy, but that doesn't seem to exist in our pagan circles. There's plenty of women's only covens. I've never heard of a men's only coven. Now I haven't been around very long. I was
Well,
16 or so. So
I think that would not be socially acceptable.
you're probably right,
I mean, I
but
I think it would not. There's a pendulum, like we had talked about before you went live. There's a pendulum swing, and I think that there would be a lot of issues. Um, yeah, all the men's covens are gay witches.
yes,
That's correct. They do circle jerks and all the other kinds of things. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like a coven of straight men
yeah.
in today's society,
There are enough
especially
straight men to make a coven.
I think that would be considered patriarchal, even though I don't think that is. I don't know. We talk about a lot of grace in the witchcraft circle, but there's a lot of judgment and there's a lot of expectations and a lot of assumptions. So I would go on a limb and say it's not necessarily always a safe space for everybody. In
Yeah.
Christianity or in witchcraft circles, it's not all love and light.
Oh, and anybody that thinks it is hasn't been a witch for very long.
Correct.
Um,
Um, Taya was also saying there's a lot of men in publishing, which
mm,
a lot of people don't want to talk about. But yeah, I think that there's the face of witchcraft on the internet is definitely women,
yeah,
and you know, gay people, LGBT people, people of color. But I think there's still a lot of men who don't necessarily fit in those circles who are still pushing certain narratives within witchcraft circles, pagan circles, as far as public perception is concerned.
yeah. I think you're right. I think, yeah, like when you look at the books that help, a book that was my doorway into paganism was written by a man, right? Scott Cunningham.
Hmm.
All the earlier authors for a very long time, and I don't want to misquote anybody here. I think it was Thorne Mooney that pointed out that back in those days, all of the authors were men. There was Scott Cunningham, there was Gerald Gardner, there was Aleister Crowley. Basically, everybody that was making big name published pagan sources were men. So I wonder if that's the pendulum swing now. What we're seeing on YouTube is primarily women and gay men. Um,
Hmm.
Tay, I think that would depend very much on whether you consider straight A's to be straight. Yeah, I know of straight men. They're not on YouTube.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, Taya, marginalized. I cannot think of the word.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, men have their place. Everyone has a place in the community. I think. I just think right now everything's so highly charged.
yes,
Everything's politicized. Not that all those things are wrong or bad, but I definitely think we feel those things in the community.
yeah, yeah.
So
And you get a lot of backlash when you try and be a man in paganism because that's witchcraft is for women, and you would think that it was because of all the social media and all of the pop culture. You don't really see men portrayed as witches.
well, I would go to say that it's I would even go as far as to say that some of that I think is subliminal messaging and connecting women to claiming their own power to working with the devil. I mean, that
Yeah,
may be a stretch, but that's how I see it. I think that there's an intentional connection there because you're not going to connect men to that because men are innately privileged in many ways, and women are always kind of uh, degraded in a way where their power is always dependent on something else. So you look historically, pop culture, women get their power from the devil. They're not innately given to them. It's not something that they've earned or created on their own. It's because of the devil, which coincidentally is a man. So, I think that there's a connection there.
yeah, and I think it's an attempt at trying to subvert a woman taking back her personal power.
Agree.
Like, because there's nothing that scares a church more than a powerful woman.
100%.
Really, nothing that scares the church more than a powerful, independent woman.
Right. You would think it would be the pedophilia, but
Yeah,
they
you
don't
would think, right?
concern with
But
that.
apparently, they're okay with that.
You're right. The pedophilia is fine, but
Yeah,
the
but
women need to shut up.
yeah, independent women. Oh, we can't have that. But I try not to show on a certain church, but when they step in it themselves, that's kind of their fault. Um, but yeah, I mean, and I think that's also because people have a very masculinity and witchcraft gets a negative light because people also tend to associate men with all the negative stereotypes. They don't think of the things that men are associated with and we're very well known for doing that we don't get. People want to glorify the warrior and the violence and the gun-toting cowboy, which is where we get a big problem in the U.S., especially with all the things that have been going on recently, and hell, even just this year. And
Right.
what would happen if we instead glorified men for their craftsmanship, for their creativity, for their poetry, for their music, for their
Right.
singing, for all the other things, for their art, for all the other things that men do and can do, instead of the big strong warrior or the toxic bullshit. Like, we are more than just cannon fodder, and I wish people would glorify the other part.
I mean, I definitely think we're headed in that I think we're headed in that direction for
We
sure.
are, but we're slowly heading in that direction.
Yeah,
The that's because the right wing in this country doesn't want to change, because if they
right.
don't have that, then I don't think they know what they are.
I would agree with that 100%. I mean, the whole rhetoric has made me I mean, super uncomfortable with masculinity and um there was a time where I tried to be more masculine and I don't know. It's a very uncomfortable thing just because I guess I still have unresolved issues with expectation and a way in which a man is supposed to behave. I don't know. It's an interesting thought, that's for sure.
Yeah, and if we put more attention on men's ability to create and to make poetry and art and to be skilled craftsmen, which we do a little bit, but we don't put nearly enough on it. There's more men that are proud of their AR-15 than they are of the damn birdhouse that they just built, and I think that's backwards.
I
I
would
don't
agree
care
with
if
that.
the birdhouse looks like shit. If you built it with your own damn hands, you've learned something, and you've improved your skills,
Right. I
and
agree.
you've given yourself something to build on.
Yeah.
But we don't want to look at that. We don't want to. We don't want to hold up things that men can create that are beautiful.
Well,
Because
I think generationally is when real change happens, when we raise our kids different, when we have an effect on the younger generation who does better than the ones that we're doing better than the ones that came before us, and hopefully the ones below us will do better than we've done, and slowly, hopefully generationally, those things will change. I mean, I definitely think women and all marginalized people are doing their part to kind of change that narrative, and
and I think
it takes time.
yes, it is, and I think the advent of the internet and people doing exactly what we're doing now is having more of an effect than we think. We don't see it yet. We don't
Right.
see it's not having a massively tangible effect, especially on our culture here in the U.S. because people are still so obsessed with how things used to be. The 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 romanticized idea of the Wild West gunslinging cowboy is still freshly ingrained in American culture, and we need to get rid of that and replace it with something that's a little bit more creative and constructive and, frankly, beautiful, and show people that men can be beautiful and can bring things that are wonderful into this world instead of just gunfire and high explosives.
Well, I kind of, it's like these generations though, they're like Tillicum. Have you ever seen that documentary Blackfish about SeaWorld? So like, it's kind of like all of these older generations with their ideas that they're trying to hold so tightly to. They're like a killer whale out in the wild. And the world now has changed so much in our expectations and gender identity and expression that it's kind of like taking that wild animal and putting it in a tank, and it does not know how to respond. You know what I mean? And I think a majority of these people, I, I think when a lot of them die, it'll get better. I'm just going to say it. I think once they die and that kind of thing can no longer be perpetuated, a lot of those ideas will die with them. But like Taya said, like it's going to take a couple generations for like
Yes.
that torch to go out, that flame to go out, and these new ideas to happen. Because there was this whole thing of like memes and stuff on TikTok and Facebook and everywhere where how did men go from this, and it would be like pictures of like men in the 40s dressed all dapper, to like today where men are wearing like painted nails and dresses and stuff, and they were like, how did men go from this to this? But then you look back even a couple generations beyond those dapper men, and you had men wearing dresses and wearing makeup and wearing heels. It's all a cultural perspective, because the expectation of how men dress, just in general, right, just the presentation of fashion for men has changed drastically culturally. So what people think is unacceptable now will be completely normal in another society and another few generations. So it's like the right wing always says, this is what a man has always been. It's actually not. That's what's
Actually,
been
not true.
created.
Yeah,
Right.
the right is trying to ban drag queen story hour, but our country was founded by a bunch of men who powdered their faces and wore wigs. So what the fuck?
It's all bullshit. We're worried about drag queens. We're worried. We're talking about gay rights. We're talking about drag queens. We're talking about abortion. It's like there is more relevant shit to be talking about. It's 2023, and we're passing legislation to ban drag queens.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, how many drag queens have molested children in a Catholic church? None that I know of. I mean, you don't have drag queens shooting up schools.
No.
I mean, there's real issues that are going on here, and
they're doing everything they can to avoid talking about the problem, which is straight white cis men.
And the fact of the matter is that religion has become political. Point blank period, with the evangelicals and everybody else. There is a connection. Hey, Jasmine, there is a connection now. There's a very distinct connection between the right and Christianity, and you almost can't tell the difference between the two of them anymore. They are so in bed. I mean, they're fucking each other so hard, you don't know if it's going in the ass, in the mouth, where it's at. Like, it is. And it's a control, like you were talking about earlier. You don't like gay pride parades because you don't want that to be shoved down your throat. You don't want the gay agenda to be shoved down your throat, but you want us to read the Bible in school. You want to push your religion down my throat. That's okay.
Yeah. It's very, what's the word for it? Hypocritical.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100% hypocritical.
But I do agree with Taya here. On a long enough time scale, we do win. But the time scale it just feels like it's too big. I want this shit to change now.
Well, I think every generation has its fight, but right now, because of social media, I think every marginalized person has a speaking, a place to share their message and to connect with like-minded people. So you have all of these people fighting for their right, and they should. And so it feels like this massive thing. And these men and these religious nut jobs have been the authority for so long, and their power is slipping, and they know it, but they will do whatever they have to do to hold on to that, to hold on to their Bible, to hold on to their guns, hold on to their pedophilia. And, until their dying breath, they are going to hold on to those things. And we just got to keep fighting and wait for them to die off.
Yeah. And I'm not wishing doom on anybody. I just, at a certain point, they're going to age out. And that's how it should be. And I do think that the more we have people like just letting their kids be who they are, the more we have acceptance, the more people stop worrying about being man enough and just be your freaking self. I think that's part of the solution, at least.
I think part of the solution is, I think the real solution is live your own fucking life and keep your nose out of my fucking business. I think is really what it is. Like, we're so concerned over what other people are doing. You can equate that to witchcraft, paganism, you can equate that to whatever you want. It doesn't matter who I'm fucking, who I'm praying to. You can go to the grocery store the same way, regardless of what I'm doing up in my bedroom. So don't be worried about it. But I think it's all a fallacy. The hate against the LGBT community and all marginalized people and women's rights, it's all a fucking scam so that we don't see and fight over other things. Like, we're still fighting for abortion.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. It's 2023. Like, it's just a way to keep us occupied. It's the football game. That's what it is. They just want us to keep watching the game, keep fighting the same fight, so we don't realize that all these fuckers in Congress have been there way too long. They all need to go. All of them. I don't care if they got an RRD, they all need to go. Like, the government needs a complete overhaul in order for us to have effective change. Like, point blank, period.
I think term limits are one way that we can do that, but how do you do that when the people that make the laws, they're not going to like term limit themselves? So how do you do? You kind of have to find a way of forcing their hand.
Right.
You almost have to find the right sword to hold over their head to make them do it.
Right. Exactly.
So, guess I'll have to go make one. I don't know.
It's just it's just a fucking lunacy to me. It's complete, and it's that part. It's not. I'm not going to say it's everybody in that party. It just they're rooting for the patriarchy to win, and I think a lot of men hate that term, patriarchy. But not all men are bad. I mean, here's my thing. If you're offended by that term or that idea, maybe that's triggering you because you've engaged in that behavior consciously. Maybe you fed into that consciously, unconsciously, whatever it is. It's okay to self-assess and realize, okay, well, maybe, I don't believe that. Maybe I shouldn't be saying those things or doing those things. Like, everyone has an opportunity to grow, unless you're Donald Trump, but you have opportunity to grow. So, and we also have to give people the opportunity to grow. Like, I'm not necessarily an alarmist or someone who likes to cancel people, because I think everyone has an opportunity to get the information and grow. You can't expect people to get information and change overnight, but you have to at least be receptive.
And right now we're not receptive, unfortunately, and we'll get there eventually, but we need to speed that along, I think, and because I want to live in a country that's actually safe to live in.
Well, I can be receptive to people as long as your feelings are not rooted in religion, and that could be witchcraft, that could be Christianity. I don't want to hear your thoughts because of the Bible or because Raymond Buckland said some shit. Just gonna say the thing. I don't give a fuck what Raymond Buckland said. Like, I don't care. What do you think? What do you think based on your lived experience or what you've seen or what you've heard? That's what I care about. Like, anybody can write something. Like, use your critical thinking and let's, put some cohesive thoughts together.
And I didn't mean you specifically, but
no, I know.
In general, yeah. But no, I agree with you. I mean, I don't give a rat's ass if you're a Christian, a pagan, or Muslim, or a Hindu, or what. Keep your religion out of your decision making when it comes to the voting polls.
Correct. I 100% agree.
I don't think a lot of people know how to do that.
Well, it's because we've become so divided and so labeled. Yeah. We're so focused on label and where we fit into the puzzle. You see that in witchcraft communities too. I'm a blue witch, I'm a green witch, I'm a wolf witch, all of those things, because we want to be able to connect. You know what I mean? To people who understand us and have a similar lived experience. And people on the other far end of the spectrum are the same way. And, when you get a bunch of crazies together, you get a shit ton of craziness.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand this, Brittany. I totally get this because it's a great way to start an argument. But I personally feel like that being a pagan is, by its very nature, political, because we are a minority religion. And how many Christians have to worry about, can I, wear my cross out in public in this particular location or not? Christians don't ever have to worry about that. But as a truck driver, I can tell you, I never wore my pentacle outside of my shirt because somebody somewhere is going to want to start a fight. In my hometown, I could do it because if they think it's the Star of David, they think I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
They don't know what it is. But in some places, it'll start a fight. But I certainly understand not wanting to be political because it's it's not where it's not what you came onto YouTube for.
Well, not only that, but it can become, you can become consumed by it.
Yeah.
If you start sharing your political views and people agree with you, they expect, if you agree with me on one point, they have an assumption that you're going to agree
Right.
with them on every point. And if you don't, we're so politically divided that it's like, well, if you don't agree with me on this, and this, you're out. Like, we can't be friends anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's healthy either.
Right. No, that's I agree with you, and it polarizes people, and it can cost you friendships, and
It
it's something
can.
that happens, and I don't like that, which is why I try to keep it off my channel too, but because of the nature of what paganism is, the fact that we're a minority religion in a country that wants to pretend like it has religious freedom without actually letting people have their religious freedom. Well,
Well,
in
and
some
some of us, well, yeah, and like you're saying, like being openly pagan is a political statement, whether you want it to be or not.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And just me talking, hearing me talk and the way that I talk and how feminine I speak is a political statement now, even though it's
yeah,
not intended to be.
yeah. No, and you didn't do that. That was them.
Right.
They
Yeah.
made it political.
100%.
They haven't seemed to figure out that if you don't want to see the pride flags, the pride parades anymore, stop treating it like it's a fucking problem and just let them live their lives, and there won't be a need for it.
Right.
But no, they can't figure that out.
No, I just think they want us all dead, honestly.
Yeah. Fortunately, there's more people in this country that don't and that want you around.
I agree.
Genuinely enjoy your company. Well, our company. Yeah. Again, I'm still getting used to that notion, but
Yep.
I know whose side I'm on if I'm forced to choose.
Agreed.
So, but there shouldn't be any sides. We should all just be. If we should be anything, we should just be Americans. Really, we should just be human. But if we have to
Exactly.
put ourselves in a box, I'd rather just be an American and not worry about anything else.
Yeah, I'd rather just be me and
Yeah.
live and let live.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But anyway, this has been over an hour now.
Yes.
But I'm kind of running out of steam. I'm trying not to circle back on the subjects we've already covered because that gets repetitive.
It does.
So, but
well, I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for having me on your channel.
Thank you for coming on my channel. I really do appreciate it. And
of course,
before we do go, would you plug yourself and all the things?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So if you don't know who I am, my name's Justin. I have a channel on YouTube called The Witch of Enchantment. I also do a live show called Wine and Witchcraft Live with A Bridge to Brittany. It's another channel here on YouTube. And then I also have a Patreon. So those are all my things. You can find me on Instagram too.
Awesome. Yeah. And thank you for coming on. Hopefully not for the last time.
No.
Yeah.
I'll come back whenever you want.
All right. Awesome. And but guys, I am going to end the stream now, and I hope I don't break it. See y'all later.
Bye.
In broadcast. Yes.